This episode, an interview with Cooper Newby of Classet.org. So the Handyman Pros radio show has been a supporter of decreasing the trades gap for quite some time. There's a massive shortage of qualified tradespeople and technicians, from truck drivers to phlebotomists and everything in between. The U.S. is facing a huge gap in skills. And we need to update this to make our economy functional. Classet was founded to help improve this skills gap, to give people a resource in which they can find true upward mobility through the trades and such. We found this, I don't even remember, but it really does not matter. We found it and we decided, let's do an interview. Welcome to the Handyman Pros Radio Show, home improvement and maintenance tips from the pros. Thanks for listening to another edition of the Handyman Pros Radio Show, where our goal is to help save you time, money, and aggravation on your home maintenance and repair. This edition's entitled An Interview with Cooper Newby from Classet.org. And as always, folks, I am here with John. He is my co-host or drinking buddy or a few other things. Besides that, Johnny, what's been going on?
Oh, I'm excited about this interview. I've been going through their website, and ever since I believe that they reached out to us, or I can't remember.
I can't remember.
But I can't remember. But I start to get some details on it. So this conversation about the trades and getting into the trades. So I think we should just roll right into it, Larry.
All right, Johnny, that's a perfect segue. We're here with Cooper Newby. Cooper, welcome.
Thanks. Big fan of your guys' show.
Thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate that. Well, I have to ask the opening question, which is your last name is Newby, and I know everybody and their brother calls you Newby. You're the newbie. You're always the newbie, aren't you?
I'm never the expert, always the newbie. It's an advantage, I keep the bar low.
Had to go there. It was just too easy. Cooper, tell us about guys have created this website and product called Classet.org. Can you tell us about you? Tell us a bit about you. Tell us about your business and what you're all trying to achieve.
Yeah. So Classet is we're really we have the mission to get more young people into the skilled trades to close the growing skill gap in the U.S. With the average age being 55 of most tradesmen, there's this impending cliff where we need more people coming into the trades to replace them, and hopefully before they leave so they can teach everyone all the new information. So I came from a mechanical engineering background. I worked in machine shops on prototypes for headphones and consumer products for a couple of years. But then I moved on to Stanford, where I started a company called Blue Crew with some friends. And Blue Crew is really aimed at, making work more accessible for people in the light industrial space. So you can think of it like Uber for warehouse work. And we grew that business really. It's still alive, was acquired by EmployBridge recently. But there we really became experts in blue collar hiring. And ever since we worked our first job as with a moving company there, we've had this incredibly strong passion for raising the wages of people who are, working these really hard, essential jobs in our economy. So we really worked on that app and built out hiring engines for all these large warehouses. But we kept noticing there that the best employees really had a glass ceiling on the amount of, the wages they could earn, because even if you're the best warehouse worker, you're only making a couple dollars an hour more. So we saw, there's an example of this guy, David Perez. He was working at the Man Crates warehouse, which is like a subscription box you get every month with cool gadgets for gifts. And he would come up to us every time. He was the most reliable worker, didn't go to college or anything like that, but he just learned on the job. He was showing us, hey, look, I built this amazing speaker stand, or I built the break room out. And he was basically learned how to become a facilities manager and moved up at Man Crates. We saw similar things at the Lyft warehouse, where people would come in as a picker and packer in the the scooter warehouse, but then they learned to become scooter mechanics. So we kept getting really excited about this upward trajectory that we could help people learn these differentiated skills and truly like raise their earning power beyond just hourly small increments in a warehouse. So that really inspired us to start Classet, where we could identify these skilled trades that are really hard to break into, and it's hard to figure out what the right on-ramps are into them for somebody who doesn't have family members in the trades. So that inspired us to start Classet and really work on that impending skills cliff.
Yeah. Is there a reason? Can you just explain the reason for the skills cliff? And we both, John and I, realize there is this cliff coming up because we find most of the people are our age and we're honestly getting ready to retire, and that I think is part of that cliff. But there's this great gap there. So there's very few people we see behind us that have any interest in even becoming tradespeople. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, it's somewhat uniquely American or North American. I think it's just this stigma has built up over the last couple decades where there's been so much pressure on college that, it's looked as like a lesser career when really the earning potential is amazing. You can start your own business. You don't have to go into debt. So I think a lot of it is that stigma. But the other thing we found when we went into high schools, and we've been, chatting with high school students and career counselors, the incentives for career counselors is to that number of getting people into college, only looked as a success if you have, blank people or blank percentage going into college. And also a lot of the career counselors have advanced degrees and really value those. They all have the best intentions, but it pushes people towards these paths that don't make sense for everyone where you are going into debt. So we get pretty excited about, shedding light on those other career pathways. And a lot of the schools are changing to they call them career pathways now, where they aren't purely looking at college acceptance rate or, even community colleges. They are, judged on their success based on how many people have any path to any career they're really excited about. And I think that's way more sustainable. But it is a hard stigma to break because all the people who it's been, ingrained into every parent's head that college is the only way. You're not a success if you don't get into a good college. But really, it leaves these huge holes in people's pockets of debt where you could start making money right out of the get-go with the trades.
Yeah, and we and John agrees, John, we've talked about this, but there are plenty of apprenticeship programs out there where they'll actually pay you to come learn. And we get excited about some of those programs. And we've got some friends that we know, right, John, that do that. They put people on and then they help them train them. And we were talking beforehand, and you and I, Cooper, were talking earlier about in education and looking at it from a return on investment. And definitely when you talk about going deeply into debt to get a college degree versus maybe either having a lower rate of debt by going to a vocational trade school or having somebody pay you, aka an apprenticeship, you end up with no debt, it really changes the financial outcome. Instead of taking years and years and years to pay back that debt, as you just said it, you're out of the blocks and running straight away. You're making money from day one, basically, or almost day one, kind of thing. So yeah, we're pretty excited about that. How does Classet help with that? So give us kind of a rundown on what you guys are doing. I've looked at your website. There's a ton of information there, particularly in the educational side, but there's also help in finding jobs as well. So help kind of walk us through the flow of what you envision the flow to be, that somebody say, as a high school student or even somebody contemplating a job change, because gosh, folks, if you're out there and you're stubborn, John and I both came to being handymen from other jobs. We've always done stuff, but we late in our careers decided we wanted something that was less stressful and more rewarding, and that's how we've ended up as handymen. And then the podcast was an outgrowth of being a handyman, trying to actually reduce our business, which has not worked, by the way. But that's another story.
Let me add that when you go out to these the high schools, Cooper. And, one of the things that they did away with a long time ago was shop class, right? And so the shop class, first of all, it was a, shop class. And then they're like, nah, I don't want shop class. Then it turned into like, okay, a vocational type of thing. All right, we'll soften it up. And then pretty soon they kind of all did away with it altogether because of this stigma, right? That you got to send the kids to, everybody's got to go to college. And then that's kind of where, I got interested in what I was doing as when I got into mechanics, as a younger guy. And I think some of the best advice that I had taken is when I went into aviation school, was that, this is where your interest lies. I'll never forget, I was sitting there with the head of the school at the time, the college at the time. And he said, go through this and then go to, follow on with college courses, because now you're gonna find yourself. But a lot of times I see a lot of kids that just go into college and they hit a wall. They don't know what to do. There's no passion. There's no direction, or the direction is they're in a place that you're going to spend $100,000, $200,000, and you come out and you're like, wow, I'm not making any money and I can't get a job because I went to the wrong side of things. But that was the advice I was given, and it worked. I went through and I was like, okay, now I know where to go. And now if I want to go into, aviation, which I did, I can, now the sky's the limit because I knew business now, and I'm, starting to move up. So anyways, not to take your thunder here, but that was kind of my background. You're offering
things like that though, right? Right, Cooper, and Classet. Yeah. That's kind of what my take on part of what your website does. Is that?
Yeah, we expose people earlier and earlier with content that they'll, for young people, the attention span has shrunk. So like we do interviews on TikTok of different careers to give people a sense of like these successful people that, work at small businesses, big businesses, and how they got there. And but I do think it is changing where high schools are starting to get the message that we do need those shop classes. In Denver public schools, which we've worked with, they actually have these amazing technical high schools where kids can go and they have shops that are just amazing. They'll make you cry. They're so beautiful, and they're somewhat poorly attended. Because they're small class sizes. You really have to know early that that's what you want to do. So we really hope to use we have a periodic table of skilled trades where you can click in and watch quick TikTok videos of each of the jobs on any trade, so you can really get a broad kind of digest of what you might like. And we have like a video skilled trades quiz. So, it spits out what careers might be a good fit for you. Because we do find that, most high schoolers, we went and presented to a high school class, and it's just hard to get people's attention. And it's even harder to find a passion that they really like. And that's the key to getting people into those.
Yeah, I agree. I can see that because, going back to the comment about, the stigma that's going on right now, and it has been. But I will tell you that, hey, kids, guess what? The car that most millionaires drive is an F-150. So, you can make a lot of money. You can make a lot of money in trades. It's not you're going to be just, the guy that's always going to be, an electrician or a plumber. I mean, you could be the guy who's running the whole show, your own business, and really now things take off.
And there's other avenues as well. And folks, you all know, if you don't know, I own rental properties. I take the skills that I use in my job to create my financial build or wealth building basically via buying rental houses. I do the work myself. And if you're in the don't think the trades is not a path to wealth, because John just said it, and it's true. If you look at the by brand, the number one vehicle that millionaires comes from the millionaire next door, you'll find it's a Ford F-150 is what most millionaires in the United States of America actually drive. It's not a Porsche or a Lamborghini or anything like that. It's a pickup truck, and it's a shocking,
it is
shocking revelation, right? And you can verify that too. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm not. So last time I checked, that's what it was. And Cooper, so tell them a little bit about how you actually have almost a skills type test. I've done it. I did it. I went through it. So you click on these various different things. It's like, is this interesting? Yes or no? And you click on it, you watch a video, and it gives you a pretty good rundown on what the job is. But you go through those series, and then it ends up kicking you out the end with a recommendation. I'm not going to say what my recommendation was. Mostly it said, get a life, but that's different. But tell us a little bit about about that process, because I think it's a great idea. I really like the way it lays out.
Yeah, well, we rank all the trades based on how physical is it, how much training does it take, is it indoors or outdoors? Because what we do find, the number one question that people getting into the trades are really which trade is best for me? And that's a very broad question, and everyone has very strong opinions on that. But a lot of times it comes down to, do you like working indoors or outdoors? And, do you have fine attention to detail, or do you like, more rough set things? And a lot of people ask, what about this trade or this trade or this trade, millwright versus, and they're off the wall. And so really providing the background for what you're getting yourself into is super important. And the other thing that can be challenging sometimes too is it's not clear where the opportunities are. So we found with one of the problems with the skills gap is the unions have really great apprenticeship programs, but they're so hard to get into. So you have to apply 4 years in a row, drop off a paper application. And it's because they really only can recruit the amount of apprenticeship spots for direct jobs that they have in their purview, that are a highway job or whatever. So when we talk to the operators union in Chicago, they would love to be bringing on more apprentices, but they can only recruit for the amount of jobs that they have. So one of our big things, along with the kind of education piece and shedding light on these different trades, is just making it easier for any company, small or big, to find the right entry-level talent. So we've been, along with the education piece, we also help place apprentices. So, after you've taken the quiz and you've, found one that you like, you can also look at all the jobs across the trades on our site at that entry level point or more experienced, and then we'll help you build a portfolio of your work. Because what we've also found is the trades are very visual. Most people getting in there weren't the best students. They don't like sitting in a classroom. They like working with their hands. They love listening to the Handyman podcast because they can do it in their truck. But they don't like sitting down and doing written tests or writing out resumes over and over. So we're trying to make it as easy as possible for them to show off their work. So if you are an apprentice with zero experience, you can stand out amongst the crowd with pictures of your work. You can look at other people's portfolios and check out the projects they've been doing as a part of a visual piece of your resume, so that you can kind of look really appealing to a company that might be hesitant to bring on somebody with zero experience. Because even people coming out of trade school, we hear over and over from the companies that hire on Classet, they're like, I don't know what they're teaching them. There are some good ones, there's some bad ones, but I really need work experience. So we're trying to bridge that gap where people who do DIY projects can present those, and you can sleep at night as a roto-rooter who's looking to hire a bunch of apprentices and make sure that they're really know what they're doing. So we really like that piece.
No, that's fascinating.
Yeah, I just want to add a comment on that. So John and I, we talked to a lot of handymen over the course of doing this show and just out there in the world. And so many of them really don't have any formal education. They've been working on their own homes for years, and they do have that book of work. They really do. In fact, John and I both have our own book of work at our own homes. John has become this year a deck expert because he's replaced every single board on his deck. But I just say that in that we talk about these things on the show. But it's a business, or the businesses, the various different aspects of being in the trades. Education is great, but it's not everything. And if somebody's coming to me and they bring me a book, hey, I did this at my house, or I did this, or I built this, if they want to go into machining, just for example, and they say, my grandfather has a lathe and this is what I lathed out and this is what I did. And I understand how it's more the understanding, because to your point, they don't necessarily look good on paper because they're not oriented that way. I personally am not really, I'm okay, but I'm not great at it. I'm better doing a visual thing, just like shooting this video. I'm really much better. If I want to show you how to do something, I like to show you hands-on how to do things. And those are the things, to your point, that you guys are helping young people get together, put together, and have them understand it's not just about this, and it's about other things, and other ways. There's a million different ways to learn things, right? And so it's all about that. And then how do you get it together and make it look pretty in an application, if you want to call it that. So
there's a big practical part of all of this in the trades, or the mechanics,
or mechanics.
It's the same thing, guys. If you're going through any kind of mechanic school or especially aviation, and you're under the FAA, it's a lot of classroom. It's a lot of testing, and then there's a big practical that follows on. So, that's I think, but to your point is that the practical side of it, if it hasn't been signed off in a very formal way, like I had to go through, it really becomes, how do I show somebody, right? How do I, prove that to somebody without actually working with them? At least give me a shot.
Yeah. And we work we hired about over 200 people for Ace Handyman Services, the franchise. And one of the amazing things about that company is they do invest in their workers, and it's a really good way to get into the trades, the handyman business, because they can send people out to jobs that they're comfortable with while they learn the other skills. If you know how to hang a door and do drywall, but you want to learn, more trades, they have the master there who will teach them over time, so that, after you've gone on 3 or 4 jobs, then you can, start being billed at a higher rate and doing more jobs. So it gives you exposure to a lot of different trades, at least in the States where there's not crazy restrictions. But I do think there's, getting more entry-level people into these jobs and making it friendlier. It's not something you can do over video exclusively. You really do have to be there on site with a mentor who will show you how to do it, and help if things go wrong. So I think there's a lot of room in the industry for kind of like lowering the bar for what an entry-level person needs to know, or the experience they need to have, and just helping put in those, like, we hope to someday have an apprenticeship in a box where any company can get, government funding and build out their apprenticeship program, because it also helps retention too. If you have a company that has taught you, is investing in their own workers and is teaching you new skills, you're much more loyal to stick around for a long time as well.
Well, yeah, and we had discussed, so many of these smaller companies in particular are very much family-run organizations, and you kind of get to be a part of that family. And these are people you work with them, you go out and you have a beer with them, and you all exchange Christmas gifts. It's not big corporate stuff, it's not like that. It's a lot of smaller. The trades are nationwide, largely are smaller companies. They're 15 to 20 people, and they run what, HVAC, electrical, in our trades, even mechanics. You get into a mechanic shop. John, I have a question for John. John, when you were at Eastern, which was a very large corporation, you worked in a shop with how many guys, and did you know those guys?
Oh yeah, I knew every one of them, but we had 3,000 mechanics on base.
But you knew
So
3,000. I mean,
I
that's
didn't
still
know
a
3,000. I knew everybody I work with, of course.
Yeah, you knew everybody you worked with.
Oh,
Were
yeah.
they? Did you had your friends, you had your enemies, you had kind of
No,
a
no,
microcosmos.
no. Whoever did the hiring in there, we all had a lot of stuff in common. It was,
Yep.
they all did a psych on us. It was really interesting who they hired and who they didn't. But when you got in there, everybody had the same likes and all kinds of it's kind of a weird thing in that way. They must have some kind of psychiatric evaluation of us when we were.
You're all psychos.
Yeah,
Face
yeah.
it, Johnny. Everybody knows that about
But it
you.
was really,
This,
it was really interesting. It was a fun time, especially when you're younger, But
Yeah.
then I got
a lot of esprit de corps, right?
yeah,
A lot of just
yeah, of course, of course.
same old. Same.
I really liked it. Okay, for all those the guys out there that if you don't know what and Cooper, you brought up a great point there in the handyman side of things. If you want to, if you're dabbling in this, you might find yourself getting pulled in one direction or another, what you really like. Plumbing, electrical, hey, HVAC, but I need, now I can take the next steps, and I'm experiencing and getting exposed to all of this. And now I can, maybe I want to focus in on one of them. And then from there, I do everything else I need to do to become a licensed plumber, electrician, HVAC or whatever it is. Right. And you can go through a platform like yourself and find that, right. Get matched up with something.
Yeah. And to Larry's point, if you're a handyman, it makes it incredibly easy to transition eventually to, investment properties, because you don't have to pay somebody to fix everything. And that is like one of the questions that I ask everyone when I interview them at their jobs is, I'm like, what toy or what have you been able to afford? Because you make a good living in the trades. And I'm always surprised at how amazing the answers are, because it's always like much more fiscally responsible than, some engineer who just bought a new Tesla. It's like, oh yeah, I own 8 investment properties. One guy was talking about how he owned 8 investment properties. He's a linesman who makes, over 300K a year. And he puts it right back into those investment properties, rents them out on Airbnb, and then takes, time off every year to go fix them up. So it's a really great way to get to financial freedom, because you don't have to pay somebody to do all the expensive tasks.
Yeah,
it's interesting, and it's also an interesting thing about a work-life balance too. So that's part of when you're looking at what side of the trades that you'd like to go into, and if that's important to you. Because I will tell you that when I was working in an office environment and business, I mean, I was taking a lot of work home with me, and it was it was a 7 to 10 gig. I'm in the office early and I'm still working at 10 o'clock at night. So
not so much doing our job, John.
No. But so there's that side of it.
Yeah, that's another piece we like to shed light on with the different trades, because there are different requirements for what you have to be willing to do. If you are take this linesman, for example, he was saying he works 60 hours a week, and that promoted a bunch of controversy on TikTok, because people are like, oh yeah, you're traveling all the time as a traveling lineman. And so you got to be okay with living out of a hotel room. But there were also people saying, oh, but you're not actually working all that time. Your billable hours, you're showing up to job sites. So there's every trade is very different, and there's no source of truth for what they're like. So we really hope to, over the long term, just like consolidate, so that if you're similar to looking for a college, you can go visit the college, exactly what people are reviewing it. We really want that for all the trades companies and all the trades skills, so that you know what you're getting yourself into and can kind of make it much more transparent than what it is right now.
Yeah, I mean that's what I really liked about the approach that you had on your website was kind of asking those questions and probing. What is it that you're comfortable with? Because in some of the trades, if you're not comfortable working at midnight, midnight shift, it's not for you, right?
Yeah, some are not for you.
Which I did for a long time, and I was like, but there's some great character, and you know what? And some people love it.
Yeah.
And that's why, hence he asked the questions.
Yeah. Yeah. There's people who really want to get in the trades, but can't do crazy physical work, but there are trades for that. And there's a crazy spectrum on what you can do in the trades. And I'm blown away every day when we find, new niche trades. Like, was talking to a van builder last week, who builds custom vans, and then surfboard shapers, everything you can think of has trades. And I think more and more people will go towards those as AI takes jobs from white collar workers.
Yeah. And then there's that, getting back to 40% of the people are going to be out of these trades. There's going to be a lot of opportunities out there, folks, for this.
And we do remember that it's all infrastructure stuff, right, John? A lot of it is infrastructure stuff.
I was just going to say, at some point, at one time, let me back up. At one time, guys weren't making a whole lot of money in the trades, but now with the scarcity that's going to happen, you're going to be writing your own ticket here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in the next 20 years, you're going to be writing your own ticket, because there's nobody that knows what they're doing anymore. And, you're going to get, if you're a good plumber, you're a good electrician, you're working as a handyman, you're going to be, you're going to find yourself out there as being, the guy.
Yeah.
So,
I mentioned infrastructure, just that it's very, very consistent, right? So we always need power. We need electricity. Right. We need gas, gas meaning like natural gas, things like that. Anything that runs a house, all the things that run a house, you need sewer, you need plumbing, you need water, you need, all of those things are never, I don't foresee them going away. AI is going to take a lot of jobs, but at the end of the day, AI cannot replace the water line that comes into your house. That takes somebody on the ground. And that's when I say infrastructure. Those jobs are going to be very, very secure. They're not glamorous. They're not fun, but, well, they are kind of fun. It depends on your particular interests, but they're going to be there, and they're going to always pay. Good times, bad times. As I did a lot of work, folks, you all know this in the septic industry. Nobody, when their toilet is overflowing, goes, dang, like, I'd have you come in and pump my septic tank, but your price is just a little too high. They say, no, pump it right now.
That's why Larry and I do the show remote from each other.
Thanks, Johnny.
Yeah, with that shortage, I think it's like 3 million openings in 2030. The only thing that can happen is to fix that shortage is raise wages for all tradesmen. So it's going to mean, like, as a company, you really have to have a competitive offering. You have to treat these candidates like the rare, amazing people that they are. And I think the wages are going to raise a lot, which will bring a lot of people into the trades. But the problem is you can't, make up 4 years of...
It's not overnight. Yeah, it's not overnight. And you do at Classet, too. You have a side that's an employer side that helps employers engage employees. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so our goal is to save busy trades owners and recruiters time by automating the tedious recruiting tasks while still presenting like a best-in-class candidate experience. So the way it works, people basically tell us their requirements, their must-have criteria. We'll help them, tune their job description. We source the jobs across hundreds of job boards and partnerships. So we have partnerships with Home Builders Institute, which is a cool training program. They work with Job Corps, but they help people learn how to build homes, and obviously our social media channels and school partnerships. And then we basically automate all the outreach to candidates, because as busy tradespeople are on the job most of the time and aren't by their phone, it can be hard to get a hold of candidates at the right time when the employers are looking to talk with them. So we automate that, and then we actually do the screening calls for companies so that you get all the pieces that might be missing from the resume. You make sure that they're in the right location. We also, sell the job to these candidates as well and make sure they're really excited to come on board. And then the companies get the notes and they can decide who they want to interview or hire. So it just saves them a ton of time, and we act as their like recruiting applicant relationship manager. So kind of like a CRM for their candidates.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking through the website, and you had a little comparison about a big company that's in the trades to hire somebody, how much that is, or if you have to do it yourself. And I will tell you that just the amount of time I can imagine just trying to find people is got to be incredible, and a real pain in the butt, to try to find folks out there, and as thin as the market is right now. So I mean, a service like yours is got to be welcome to these folks. It's got to be. I mean, for basically what you're charging and things like that. I mean, I don't know about you, Larry, but I can.
It's the worst thing in business is hiring people. It's tedious. It's just not. It's technically unproductive. Blah 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 blah. It's not what most trades guys are interested in, honestly.
Right,
really.
Yeah, right. Most people aren't in an HR department, right? I mean, they're out working, and they need some guys, on the crew. I mean, Larry, you when you were in the vending business, what would you tell me? How many guys did you have to go through before you?
I would go through 200 applicants before I found one that was worth putting any time into. So, and it held over and over and over and over again. I was a little shocked. I'm a record keeper, folks, if you haven't figured it out. I'm a numbers guy, but it would take us we'd do 200, 200 phone contacts, and we had a process and we whittled it down, but it took at least 200 contacts before we found anybody that we would even give a try to. And that's really, and we were in the trades. I mean, it's a form of the trades. It's not, and it's not a bad trade. It's a very good thing. There's a lot of great reasons to be in the vending business. Anyway, I can write your thing if you want a vending description for you. There's all kinds of things, and it's back to just, making the perfect fit. And it just took forever. Oh my God, it took forever. And that's even before we started training anybody. And then we'd bring them in, and then we'd have to get them to do it. I hate to say our way, but my way or whatever it was. We had a real system set up, and but we had to just get people into the system, and all of that just takes time and effort, and it's a chore, folks. If you know anybody that's got a small business out there that has multiple employees, go ask them. They'll tell you. And I'm sure Cooper's probably got hundreds of descriptions of, oh my God, you're saving me so much in time, effort, and aggravation, since it's our thing, save time, money, and aggravation, and that's what we're all about. So, yeah.
Yeah, we see that, people in the trades sometimes undervalue their time. And if you're looking at all those 200 candidates and trying to call them multiple times, it's just going to sap up all your time. So, yeah, we do think that, if you can spend that time just focusing on the 10 that are fit and we know we can get a hold of them and we've talked to them, it's just a much better use of time. And it's, we also, we don't charge hiring fees or anything. So it's, as opposed to a headhunter where you might feel pressure to hire somebody and pay a huge finder's fee. We don't do any of that. So it's just a much more predictable way. And also on the flip side, really helps, present yourself in the best light to the candidates if you're being very responsive. And, we automate a lot of that so you aren't doing all the back and forth if you are a busy owner.
Awesome. Well, I think our time is running short. John, is there any other questions that you have?
No, not really. I think it's a great thing that what you're doing, Cooper. And we'd really like to have you back and follow this. Both Larry and I we're very
Passionate.
That's a good word. Passionate about getting folks into the trades. I think it's just been a lost art out there, and guys, you need to pick up on it. And I think hit the Classet website and get started. I mean, I think it's great.
So, Cooper, give us that contact information. Spell it out, because it's not as it sounds. We'll put it in the show notes, but we still want we want you to say it, and just give us a rundown. Tell us how people can get a hold of you.
Yeah, it's classet.org, CLASSET.org. If you're looking to explore the trades, we have lots of content there. We've also got, you can go to our 4 companies page if you're looking to recruit, and we have our number there, so you can call us at any time, and we can get you started. But yeah, we're also on TikTok and Instagram if you're looking for the short form video stuff, or if you want to be interviewed. I love interviewing successful tradespeople for the next generation, so love to talk with more people.
All right, I want to thank Cooper for being on the show. John, what are some of the key takeaways?
I think a much needed service. Okay. And the thing that I keep hearing time and time again is that all the retirement, and Larry, you and I talk about it ad nauseum of the trades and the people getting out. There's going to be a big need for folks in the trades. I mean, let's face it.
In the trades, yeah, it's a huge. This interview, one of my takeaways was it just once again reinforces the fact that there's a huge skills gap, and that there's actually massive opportunity in the trades. There's just, if you want a really good paying job going forward, being in the trades is not what it used to be, folks. It's not not what it used to be. So with that, I think, what were some of the other takeaways, John?
I think that, one of the things from Classet, what they're doing here is they're really exposing these kids to a new way of life in the trades. We've all, over the past, and we talked about during the interview, was that it's, classically, you got to go to college, you got to do, those kind of things. And you're building up a big debt, but this, without really being able to repay that, I mean, that just kind of, wow,
it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, coming out of college with basically like a mortgage that I don't even have a job yet. So this is like I said, it's much needed. They're exposing these kids, but yet they're automating how people in the trades can hire these folks too. That's why I say
and one other thing,
much needed.
Yeah. One of my takeaways, sorry for running over the top of you there, John, but just to predate that or preempt that a little bit, is that one of my takeaways from it was they give you this really easy platform to compare and contrast the various different trades. You literally, it's like you want to learn about being a diesel mechanic. It's click right here. And then it gives you a complete description of everything involved in being, including where you work. Is it physical, blah, 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 all the aspects. You can do that. There's other things on there. There's carpenter. There's I don't know, there's got to be 50, 60, 70, maybe 100 different trades that you can click on and get really nice descriptions and work environments and all that kind of thing on those trades. I really love that function of what they've got on their site. And Cooper obviously is very knowledgeable of all of this stuff. It was really, really a good interview.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure, John, anything else there that was really
I think there was just it was outstanding. So, I think, everybody go out there and check out classet.org and
check out classet.org.
Yeah.
And please, while you're at it, folks, would you please like and subscribe to both our YouTube channel, our podcasts, give us a good rating. We're really trying to get this information out to people. And so we really would appreciate your help with us on that. So with that, John, hey, you know what? We're going straight to the old one. The spaceship has landed. Do we look at it or do we take it apart?
Well, it's got a Union sticker on it.
And with that, we'll see you next week on the Handyman Pros Radio Show.